Let's tip this down a little bit. There we go. Hi guys, welcome to the Covenant of the Open Mind channel. This is our first time doing this whole live thing, so I hope everyone can hear us. I hope that you can see us. Welcome to our channel. If you're new here, if you're one of our long-standing members, then thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about shielding, what shielding is, how to do it. Ogenslav's going to lead us in a guided meditation to get us better acquainted with psionics, which is a form of energy manipulation that is critical for basically all forms of evocation magic, of which shielding is one. So we have a few people here in the room as well. So this is going to feel a lot like more of a classroom setting. I hope this goes well. If it does, we'll do more of these if people like it. And if not, then we'll go back to our old format of just pre-recorded lectures that one of us sits in front of a camera and does.
Feel free to ask questions in the comments too while we're doing this.
Please ask questions in the comments. We'll definitely be monitoring and replying to those in real time. That's the whole point of doing this live. And hopefully Kevin can help come up with some good comments for us in the room as well. Okay, so first off, let's talk about what shielding is. And there's 4 kinds, so I'll write that on the board. But first, shielding is the process of immunizing yourself to outside energy. So it can't get in or it can't affect you. It doesn't really matter how you say it or how you think about it, because all that really matters is that you are a serene vessel floating on the ocean, capable of withstanding any storm, and there's no holes in your boat, and your mast is well secured, and you've got extra sails, right? So a good shield is a lot like that. It's like having a well-stocked, well-crewed vessel that is out in the sea where a storm could come by at any moment and shake you around and knock you around. But if you're a well-built vessel with a good crew, then you're not going to be hurt by the storm. You're going to weather it just fine. So shielding is not a way to prevent bad things from happening. To my knowledge, there's no way of doing that besides having no experiences at all, ever, I guess. Live in your mother's basement and never go outside. Then nothing bad will happen, probably. It might still. The house could burn down. So there's pretty much no way to stop bad things from happening. The key with shielding is to give yourself the ammunition and the strength to overcome those bad things, to get to the other side of them, and to not be adversely affected. So that's what shielding is. How is it done? Well, it is a way of manipulating energy. There's several kinds of shielding. So some of the kinds of shield are internal shields. Internal shields are like saying, I'm not going to let this thing affect me, or I'm not going to let this emotion affect the way that I treat others. I'm going to detach myself from whatever this stimulus is so that it doesn't result in me acting in a way that I don't want to, in an undesirable way. And that would be like an internal shield. And then an external shield. And so that is just in your mind, right? That's more like, what's it called? What's it called when it's placebo? That's more placebo than anything, right? Like if you don't believe that something can affect you, then it probably can't. But if you want to actually physically shield yourself, or metaphysically, I should say, shield yourself from the energy that you're receiving, then that is a form of energy manipulation that falls into the evocation category. So that is a form of spell work. You have to put your own energy out into the space around you so that other energy can't come in. Okay, so we're going to focus on that kind of shielding because the other kind will just devolve into a conversation about loving ourselves, which is important to shielding, by the way. The more you love yourself, the harder it is to influence you adversely. So that is important. There are 4 kinds of shielding. I hope you guys will be able to see the whiteboard. If not, we'll zoom it in for a minute or something. But so I'll write the 4 kinds. The basic one is using a hard shield. Okay. Then there is filtered. There's porous. And then this is a term that, as far as I know, I created, invocated. I have never heard of this technique outside of my using it. So to my knowledge, I invented the last type. But the first 3 I learned from multiple different sources, most of them Wiccan, but same concepts regardless of your, religious, your exact religious path. Are people able to see that?
Yeah, you can see it.
Okay. So this is broken. So with hard shields, you're talking about like nothing in, nothing out. And that is the kind that you use for circle. If you are doing some kind of spell, you want to raise all of your energy up in the space around you. And then once you've raised enough of the energy, then you send it free. It bursts forth out into the universe. So you trap all the energy in the confined space so that it builds and builds. And then once you have enough of it, then you release it, let it go. That is one way that you use a circle, a magical circle. The second way is that you keep your energy, energy that you don't desire to invoke out, so that the only energy that's actually in your space is familiar. So when you cast circle, you're pushing your energy out into the space around you so that everything else that was in that space is dispelled. It's cast out, right? So you're the only thing in that space. And then you consciously, usually using visualization, allow some energy back in. And you only allow specific types of energy, things that you're familiar with, like a particular ancestor or a particular deity, the elements, something that you're familiar with, that's comforting to you, that you've communed with, you're sure what kind of energy it is. So you let it in, and then you can let it into yourself worry-free, because you know it's not going to do any harm, because you know exactly what it is and where it comes from. Okay, that's a hard shield. Nothing in, nothing out, except if you cut a doorway, if you allow something in or out. And if someone passes through a hard shield, they'll weaken it to the point where it might burst, So usually people will say that animals can pass through shields. And the reason for that is that most animals do not have the full breadth of elements that humans have. So dogs, for instance, of which we have 3 adorable ones lying around. Hopefully they are quiet for everyone. So dogs are creatures of earth and fire. And they're not very complex creatures. They don't even spend any time thinking about spirituality, because they don't have to. Their way of relating to God is that they don't, and they don't care to, right? Live on instinct, do what you want, and have a happy life. Okay, and there's a lot of wisdom in that. And that's the goal of some spiritual paths, to find a way to just live, to just be. Because when you're able to just be, that's when you can come to truly know God. That's when you can come to truly allow deity or some external force that's stronger than yourself or more powerful, into your life. So that is a fine way of existing, but it doesn't lend well to mind work, right? It doesn't lend well to being able to control your thoughts or manipulate energy around you, because those the intuition and the instinct and those things can exist on every level, but when you get into purposefully manipulating energy and relating to deity and that sort of thing, you're talking about the elements of water for bringing the energy in and air for sending the energy out, right? So that's the second tier. So if you get to it, if you talk about an animal that has many levels of existence that's very evolved, like humans, and there are animals like that. So I would guess that probably elephants there probably are some dogs that have at least water. The octopus, I'm almost certain, has all of the levels, probably even more strongly than humans do. And so there are animals that would break the circle or weaken it if they passed through it. But when are you going to have an octopus crossing through your circle, right? So not something you really have to worry about. For instance, deer, though. So deer have water, right? So they're not full like earth, fire, water all the way through spirit, but they have water. So that's why they love magic so much. And they love being around people who are very emotional, kind, feeling type people. And deer will come out if you're doing magic because they love it. And they can sense it and they love it and they're drawn to it. But a deer is not going to break your circle if they cross it either. The only thing that'll break your circle is a being that's of all 5 elements. That's very complex and evolved, like humans are. Okay, so if a person walks through your circle, you're probably gonna have to recast it. And that's why you cut a doorway. You say, this is the space that they're allowed to cross through. Usually you would use an athame. You would do like a spirit banishing pentagram. So you might do like a spirit passive or spirit active banishing pentagram. So that's starting in the bottom corners and going up like this. And then you'd be like, you might do that 3 times, depending on what practice you are, because many have 3 levels of circles, right? So whatever your personal practices are, most people will take their athame and mime cutting a door from the ground all the way up and around. I didn't go all the way to the ground because you can't see the floor in the camera, but a real doorway. And then people could walk in and out. And actually they would cast circle, and then they would cut a doorway to allow the initiates and the all the people who are like dedicating to come in. They'd come in through the doorway and they'd have to speak a password to get in. And then once everyone's in, then they would close the doorway and they'd seal it with some pentagrams. So if you do that, then no one's bursting your circle. So with a hard shield, or with a circle, it'll weaken anytime any being like us crosses it. We might have to recast it, but once it's cast, it will keep everything out and everything in. And in fact, the people inside of the circle, you might lose track of time. You might not notice things that are going on outside of circle. If the circle's cast well, and the people within circle are all participating correctly, as in they're visualizing the circle and they're contributing, they're not just like dicking around because their wife made them come or something, then in that case, they shouldn't even be able to notice anything outside of the circle. It should all just be like, this is what's going on. Focus on what's inside the circle, because nothing in, nothing out. That's the hard shield. Okay. So then you have filtered and porous. These two are very similar, but they're a little different. So a filtered shield allows some things in. So allows some things. Oh, I switched to cursive by accident. I'm sorry. People can't read my chicken scratch cursive. And a porous shield sorry. So I always mix these up. I'm sorry. Okay, so the filtered shield will allow everything in. And now I can't spell. Alloy. Oh my goodness. What am I doing right now? Allows everything. When I have to print, I have to like think about the letters and then I get distracted. Allows everything in. And then a porous shield allows some things in.
I might need to move the camera. There's a glare on the board making it hard to see.
Close that line behind you again, would you? It's not as good for lighting, but it's better for reading. Okay. I hope people can still see us. I realize it's dark. We need to get like real lights. Okay. So a filtered shield allows everything in. So you might say, well, what's the point of it? It allows everything in, but it cleans things or separates the negative intent from things before it gets to you. So you'll feel everything that if somebody hates you, you'll feel that hatred. You'll be aware of it, but it's not going to affect you or impact your... It's not going to affect you or impact your your day, or you'll just laugh, right? So like somebody posted a nasty comment on the astrology video I just posted about how I sound like a clown, and I'm just like, okay, well, you're entitled to your opinion, I guess. So that's like an example of like filtered, like the energy gets to me and I'm aware of it, and it's not, but it just doesn't bother me. The negative intent is gone. It's so that's one type. The porous shield only allows things in if they're going to benefit you, and in that case, you might miss something that's bad, that's looming. Like if somebody has negative feelings for you, you might not be aware of them because that energy is not getting to you, but you are also definitely not affected by it. So most people will keep a filtered shield up all the time, and then they might switch it to be porous if something is happening that, sorry about the dogs, I may just close the door. Then they'll just cry in the hallway. So there's no solution with them. There's no solution with these dogs. Stop it. So the porous shield would be like, okay, well, I want to focus on the task at hand, and the energies of these people will be very distracting for me. So I don't care if people hate me or love me right now. Right now, I am focused on scoring a touchdown in the next 7 minutes, or my team loses, for instance. Okay, so then you would use a porous shield. So none of the negative sounds of the crowd get to you. Only the positive sounds, right? You hear the crowd going wild and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm amazing. This crowd loves me, that kind of thing. Okay, so that's the porous shield. Allows some things in, but only things that benefit you. And then the invocated shield, this one is tricky. What it does is all of the energy that comes in is converted into your own energy. So you process things before it gets inside of you. Before it really gets to you, you've already thought about it and processed it. And the same thing happens with energy going out. So energy going out is converted into the energy of the space around you before it's released. So the benefit of this type of shield is that people are not going to know that you feel a certain way unless you consciously want them to know it. The difficulty with this shield, with the invocated type, is that people, you'll have to know yourself really well, because you might pick up on someone else's signal, something that someone else is doing, and it'll affect you. And if you're not being careful, you're not paying attention with this kind of shield, you might think that it's you. And you might not realize, oh, wait, actually, this person's just being a little cuck today. And once they stop, I'll feel better. They can't read it?
No, the light's still.
Okay.
And the angle, too. So when you're done writing everything down...
When I'm done writing it down, we'll
move
the camera.
Yeah.
So let me just write the last one down. So allows everything in, only positive is felt. Porous allows some things in, may miss stuff with this kind. If anyone has any questions about these types of shields, now is the time to type it out so we can answer them before we move on. And invocated is I guess my energy is your energy, would be the way to say it. So this is like a conversion for easier control of how things affect you. Okay. So carefully, because we've got a microphone here. How's that look? Can people see it?
That's almost too dark.
Yeah, well, we need like real equipment if we're gonna do these better. There we go.
Can you open the blinds?
Can you get out of the way because your shadow's on the whiteboard?
Minus?
Yes.
Oh.
You're in the way of the window. That's why it's so dark. Here you go. That's not bad. There's still some glare on the whiteboard, but hopefully they get it.
Yeah.
We need like real equipment. We're amateurs. This is amateur hour. Okay. So those are the types of shielding. The way you would go about using a different type would be probably down to visualization. I'll say that each type feels differently to me. If I am using a hard shield, like I said, I don't notice anything outside of my shield. If I'm using a filtered shield, then I will notice everything, but I'll just be like, okay, when someone says something that is rude or mean, I won't be like, oh no, maybe I really do sound like a clown. I'll just be like, okay, well, obviously that's a ridiculous comment. So thanks for sharing your dumbass opinion. Appreciate that. And then if you're using like a porous shield, then, you won't even like, you won't even like notice like that comment. Like you'll just be like, well, I'm not even gonna look at the comments today. I'm gonna just, and it's not like a conscious, because the shield is run by your subconscious mind. Like it's something that you always keep up. Like a shield becomes like a heartbeat. It becomes like something that's always happening that you're just not aware of. But or like blinking. Like if I tell you, oh, you're blinking right now, and then you're aware of it. Like that. So. I know, me too. So I make fun of myself instead of doing it. I never unironically say that. So, so the porous shield is like you just like avoid the comments, like because you know that there's going to be negative things, and you just don't care to even find out what they are today. The invocated shield, that one is one that most people would never use. So if you're really curious about it, I'll talk more about it. But I'll just focus on the first three, which are the most common types. And so people will use different kinds of visualization. So for a hard shield, people often use like a bubble, because a bubble pops when something goes through it, which is basically what happens when a person walks through a hard shield. A lot of people will visualize like a certain color light, and that light will, come out of their hand, like out of their fingertips, like, ooh, Sith lightning or whatever, or it'll come out of the athame. And again, this is visualization. So for those who don't know, visualization is where you see the image of the room in your mind's eye. So I have my eyes open and I'm taking everything in, and then I close my eyes and I see, okay, here's a bookshelf and here's all the books that are on it, and I can vaguely remember where things are on the shelf, and here's Kevin, and here's all the dogs, and here's Ogun, and here's all the people in the room, right? So I can visualize that scene in my mind's eye. I don't need to see it to know roughly where everything is. And if I needed to like walk around the room, I could do that, except for the fact that the dogs are always moving, so it's completely random. But if everything was static, I would have a strong enough image in my mind's eye that I could just walk around the room, right? And you could practice being able to take in a scene. You could use like little postcards, and you could just look at the postcard and look at it for like 30 seconds and try to take everything in, and then close your eyes and rebuild the scene in your head, and then look and see if you got it right. A common thing is people do colors wrong. So I'm very good at this. I've practiced it for many years, but even I will like remember purple flowers as blue or stuff like that. Like you'll forget little things, and it's really hard to keep track of all the little things inside of that image. Another thing that you could do is you could take a look at a scene or a card or something, and then you could draw it. So they show this in Avatar, when Sokka is training to become a sword master, and the sword master's like, look at how pretty it is. And he's like, huh? And then he's like, now draw it. And he turns around and makes him draw the scene. So that's exactly how you train yourself to be able to use that third eye better. And you should work on, so for the people who are just learning visualization, those are good practice techniques. For the people who have already mastered visualization for the most part, try it with your eyes open. You should be able to visualize with your eyes open. You have like two streams in your brain, right? You have what you're seeing from your eyes, and that's there in your brain somewhere. And then you also have what it looks like in your mind's eye. And those are different things. And you should be able to like look at what's happening and then overlay some kind of like visual effect like you would in a movie of like energy flowing around the room or something. And you can just see that in your mind's eye. And you should be able to see both of those in your head at all times. What's actually happening and what you are visualizing to happen. And that's like the end goal of visualization. The purpose of visualization is so that you are totally sure that your conscious mind is doing what you want it to be doing. And you're doing that so strongly that your subconscious mind is following. So if you visualize the energy in the space strongly enough that you can feel it. This often happens in reverse. Like the first time someone goes to a big show or a concert, they get out there and they're like jumping around and dancing. And at some point, like the music drops and they're just like, they can feel the energy of the space, you know, and it might look hazy or things will look brighter or more colorful. And they'll just be like caught up in like, and they can actually almost see the energy. That's the most common place people report being able to see energy. So you should be able to do that at any time, really. Okay. Energy is always there. But at that moment it's very strong, and the person's like in a slightly altered state of mind because they've been dancing and generating energy as well, and that's what enables them to more easily see the energy, which normally they would just feel. And it's not like you're actually seeing it, right? Because it's not, if you were actually seeing it, it'd be light. Like that's what energy is when you can see it. That's what photons are. That's what electromagnetic energy is. It's light. So when you can see something, visually see it, that's because it's physically there. So if you're seeing something in your mind's eye, it's only metaphysically there, which makes it less real in some ways, but not less real in others, right? Because it's still something that interacts with you and that you can experience and that affects you. It's just not in any obvious physical way. So you're really, in a way, deluding yourself into having visions so that you can interpret what the energy of the space is telling you, what it's like. So this happens commonly with ghosts. People will pick up on the death energy, and then they'll see like a figure of a person. And what they're really doing is they're remembering a person who lived in that house. They're remembering something from a life that is outside of space and time, from the part of them that connects to the things that are outside of space and time. There's not a physical ghost in the house. And that's why they've never found evidence of ghosts, because they're not physical beings. They're metaphysical beings. We would need much more advanced instruments to be able to measure them. And we may not even have that in our lifetime. But the human body can measure it. The human body can and does measure it. And that's why you can pick up on things like that. You can experience memories that belong to people in the past. Is there a question?
Yeah. Someone asked, what about seeing someone who came to you via astral travel?
What about it? It'd be just the same thing. Like you'd be interpreting what they look like. And actually, I've had experiences with people I've never met where we did like astral travel with each other. And we had like, I had a vision of what they looked like in my mind that was fairly accurate, but they had a vision of what I looked like that was completely inaccurate, because they just interpreted my energy in a particular way. And when they saw me, they were like, oh my God, you don't look anything like how you are, you know, like, and I was like, yeah, I know. That's why I have body dysphoria. But yeah, that does happen where you know, people might misperceive. And I actually have this thing where I feel people's energy so strongly that when I meet them and I talk to them for the first time, I might not see what they really look like. At first I might see like a version of what they look like based on like what kind of person they are. So like I've had experiences where I didn't see what someone looked like for the first time until like after I've known them for months, because I finally like understood their energy well enough that I could put that aside and look at them. So there's really interesting things that can happen when you are very sensitive and you're always picking up on energy very strongly. And normally you would want to be able to control that. You would not want to be like, oh, I didn't even know what this person looked like. Like, no, normally you'd want to be able to do both. Okay, so that was something that sounds like a good thing, but is actually just a mark of immaturity in my craft. And that was many years ago. So I've since gone to the point where I can now usually see what someone looks like and see what they look like based on how they feel to me simultaneously. If you remember, Kevin has been my friend for like 12 years. If you remember, this is not, I mean, maybe not that long, like 10 years, a long time. If you remember, we used to do exercises like this when we were bored in freshman year physics. We used to align everyone with colors and with fruits. And
oh, yeah, we did.
And that is another way of doing this visualization technique. Like when someone says they see auras, they don't actually see anything. It's not, people put off a very small amount of electromagnetic radiation. But if it was like enough that you could see it, then we could easily measure it, and we haven't. So where is it, right? So it's not like a physical energy that they're putting off. It is physical energy, but it's on a scale that is so minute that you couldn't see it with your eyes. What you're really doing is feeling it, because your sense of feeling is by far the most attuned. And then you're interpreting it as sight, because you have no other way of explaining what's happening. Like there's no other terminology to use. Like, so you pick colors because colors are easy. Colors represent emotions. Colors represent feelings, right? So we do that all the time. Red, or what is it? Red is, the color of love. Like there's all these songs about like, red is this, or red is angry, or like green is envy. And there's all these different associations with it. So when you see someone or when you meet someone, they can give off vibes, and you pick up on those, and then you're like, oh, well, this person is green to me. So the problem with auras is that while it's easy for you to associate a color to the way a person feels to you, there may not be a standard, because everyone experiences color differently. So you might have some people who think blue means one thing, and then another group of people that think blue means something else. So there's no like common ground. So when you say to someone, oh, your aura is blue, and then they're like, what does that mean? Nothing really. It's just, you feel like blue to me. So another question?
Yeah, someone asked, I'm still a beginner at visualization, but it is a lot easier for me to visualize with my eyes open than with them closed. Any advice on how to get better at visualizing with my eyes closed?
Don't worry about it. Visualizing with your eyes open is the end goal. So if you can do that easier than you can visualize with your eyes closed, then A, you're probably a freak, but B, you're definitely more advanced than somebody who had the opposite problem. So don't worry, you're the right kind of freak. So when it comes to visualization, you're basically like deluding yourself into seeing something in the room with you, so that you can cause the energy to move in that way, so that you can then create some kind of physical effect from a metaphysical interaction with the world. That's the purpose of visualization. So with the other types, so we talked a lot about the hard shield. You can visualize a bubble. You you can visualize like an actual like shield of energy, like something from a science fiction movie. Let me get some water. Is there another question?
There is. Someone asked, how do you start to keep a filtered shield up constantly?
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Actually, it's a good question, but let me just finish talking about different visualization techniques that are commonly used. So for filtered shields, I've seen people use like a molasses or honey type substance that just all of the icky stuff sticks to it as it comes through. They'll visualize themselves being like in a pot of honey or something. I've heard of people using like a vacuum cleaner type thing, where they just imagine that all the negative stuff got sucked into the vacuum, like as soon as it came into their shield. So there's a bunch of options for that. For the porous shield, the most common one is sponges. But some people also have used feathers. I've heard of that. They visualize feathers around them, and the feathers will catch the bad stuff and the positive stuff will go through. Kind of like, actually, I guess that would be more of a filter. No, that's porous. That's porous. It's how like a filter in real life works, I guess. But it's porous because it's not letting the bad stuff in at all. I guess the feathers could work for either one. It really depends on how they work in your brain. See, the important thing isn't the visualization. It's not like there's some secret technique that if you just do this one thing, you'll always be shielded, right? So you have to find the visualization technique that works best for you and that makes the most sense for you. And that might take some experimenting. So, and invocated, I won't go into really. Usually you would just imagine it being like an infinite number of tangential lines, which forms a circle, but then leaves all the lines out. And the lines go out and wrap around things like tentacles and bring the energy back. And you'd be like a sea monster, I guess. So
that's the octopus breaking the shield.
That's the octopus. Maybe that's my inner animal. Anyway, so octopuses, the dogs of the sea. No, I'm kidding.
Those are seals.
Seals are the dogs of the sea.
Yes, they are.
I just like octopuses and I like dogs. So. Okay, so those are the types of shields and those are the common visualization techniques. Now, powering shields. Yay. Okay.
Before we go into that, someone did ask one more question before
Sure.
we move
What's
on.
the question?
I was kind of waiting for someone to ask. I knew someone would have been to ask this question. What kind of shield is best to protect against psychic attack? But I think that also can go into the age-old question: which shield is the best shield? Because people are always going to ask that too.
Okay, so you're almost never going to use a hard shield except for when you do certain kinds of spells and ritual. If you're doing spell work where you want the energy to be gathered in one place and then sent out all at once, and not every spell is like that, then you will use a hard shield. If you're creating sigils, use a hard shield. If you're astral traveling, use a hard shield. Use a hard shield anytime there's any risk of coming into contact with energy that you're not familiar with, because the other methods might let energy in. Like if you're relying on a filtered or a porous shield when you're like working with spirit energy, then you might think that it's your loved one, and actually it's some demon masquerading as your loved one that you just let in because you weren't really paying attention well enough to find out, before you let it in. If something comes knocking at your shield and you've got a hard shield up, then you can do the whole communing process before you let the energy in, so you're sure that it's exactly what you're letting in, and it doesn't just get in because it bypasses your subconscious check on whether or not that energy is familiar. Like, oh, it's vaguely familiar, let it in, and then all of a sudden you're possessed by a demon or something. So don't rely on the filtered or porous techniques when you're doing magical workings. That's when you use the hard shield. Now, you'll almost never use a hard shield outside of that context. The hard shield is for keeping energy in, keeping energy out. That's it. Your daily shield will be either filtered or porous. Which shield is better will depend on you as a person. Are you the kind of person that is affected by the idea of something? If somebody's commenting negative things on your YouTube videos, is that going to bother you? Just the fact that they said negative things, is that going to bother you? It doesn't even matter what they are. If the fact that people are saying negative things will bother you, then you should use the porous shield. I have like in one of the lectures from the Wicca 101 series, there's a bunch of questions that I have written down that you could answer yes or no, and they'll tell you exactly which shield to use. It's lecture 5. If you just download the lecture slides from the website, you can skip right to the slide, and you can look at it's in the notes on the slide, and you can look at that and see which one makes sense based on that. But basically, it comes down to if you're affected by the idea of things. If the very existence of negative energy on your YouTube channel is enough to get you down, use a porous shield, because then you won't even notice that negative energy. Though the downside of that is someone could be scheming and you might not notice. So you have to be careful. But the filtered shield will allow everything in, and it won't affect you. So I have a filtered shield up, and when I read that comment, I just laughed. I was like, okay, you can believe what you want, I guess. I mean, it's funny to me too, because he didn't even try to justify the claim. He's just like, you sound like a clown. I'm like, okay, believe what you want, I guess. Right. So that's like the filtered mentality. That's like, I hear you, but I just think you're an idiot. So I'm not going to listen to what you have to say. So which one is better will depend on you. Both of them will be effective. That's what matters. And both of them are relatively low energy, but you do still have to generate energy to keep them up. So if you get very emotionally exhausted, say not by an external thing, but by something that's going on inside of you, which you can shield against, but that's trickier. And that's something that we would talk about at another date. This is primarily, this seminar is for shielding from external energies, which is probably the number one thing people care about. So say you have some inner turmoil going on, and that makes you feel bad, and now you're really depressed and exhausted, but you still have to go to work because you're a grown up. So you get out of bed, you go to work, and the first person that cuts you off in traffic, and you're crying, and you're just an emotional wreck because nobody respects you, and the world is such a terrible place, right? Because you already felt that. You didn't have enough energy to even shield yourself from the smallest of altercations, right? So you need energy to shield. There are ways of powering shields that don't depend solely on yourself generating energy. Because if you are expected to generate the energy to power your shield all day, every day, that can be exhausting. And not just can that be exhausting, but say you have a shield on your house, say you ward your house, or you shield friends, or you shield people in your life as well. Well, now you're pumping out all that energy to the house, to your friends, to this, to that. So you need something that can generate energy or store energy on your behalf so that you can generate the energy once, get something super charged up, and then that thing will release the energy for you slowly over time. So it's like, and if you want to think about it from the physics perspective, you're like me and you want to make sense of it. Okay. It's like you're tapping into your own energy from the past. You're taking the time to rest now so that you can run the full race later. If you're constantly working out, you're doing cardio like 5 times a day, you're running a mile 5 times a day, that might be more exhausting. To do it every single day, you're running 5 miles, you're going to blow your knees out. You're going to hurt yourself. You're not supposed to run that much. It'd be better for you if you ran 5 miles on Monday, 5 miles on Wednesday, take 2 days off, run like half a marathon on the weekend. That would be better for your health, right? We got some people that work out here in the room. You don't go to the gym and work the same muscles every day. You can't do that. It's not sustainable. So the same thing applies when you're using your metaphysical energy that applies when you're using your physical energy. If you're using your physical energy to work out, that's the same exact thing as using your metaphysical energy to control the energy in the world around you. You can't be constantly doing it all the time. So if you generate a lot of energy one moment, and then you store that in a crystal. That's the most common place to store energy. And then later on, you have more energy saved up because that moment like took a lot out of you, but then you rested and now you feel better. And that energy is still accessible to you because it's being stored in the crystal. Crystals are a really common way to store energy because they also generate energy of their own. So they're like evocation central. They take energy in, they send energy out, and they do it all very naturally. It's what they are. It's what their purpose is, really. And you know that because the crystalline structure produces like a very specific energy signature. So like, why would each crystal be so unique if it wasn't meant to provide some different kind of energy, some different kind of function to us, right? So whether you agree with intelligent design or not aside, the function of crystals really is to generate a unique kind of energy. So you can use that to power your shield entirely, if you have like a large crystal, you could consecrate that. You could charge it up like on a full moon or something, and then leave it like on a mantelpiece or something like that. So, and then tie your ward of your house to that crystal, and then just once every so often you charge the crystal. Okay. You could enchant jewelry. So when I was first learning shielding, I met Katie. She was wonderful. She was a very good friend of mine. And she shielded so powerfully and without realizing it that she had never invoked anything in her entire life. She had never even communed with another energy that wasn't her. She lived in a little bubble. It was remarkable, honestly. And it took us weeks of guided meditation and helping her, feel where things are in her mind. And she even experimented with drugs a little bit. Like, it took her a long time to break down that shield and understand where it was coming from so that she could let energy in. So I had the very great fortune of helping her, which in the process taught me a lot about shielding. And that's where I learned most of this, like, in terms of practical experience. And then I learned a lot of the terminology and stuff like that in classes later on. So when I was first getting into shielding and I met her, I just did the first thing that came to mind, which probably is a terrible thing, but I was brand new witch and I wasn't Wiccan at the time yet. So I didn't really abide by any creeds or reads or anything. And I just bound her energy to a pentacle necklace. Pentacles often are protective symbols, so it made sense. So I just bound her energy directly to a pentacle necklace so that I'd be able to continue studying it, basically. And I wore that for a while just to see if it would work for me. And it was powerful. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. Her energy was so strong. Like, so the way that the shield worked for her is it was a blend of different shielding techniques. Invocated was one of them. Now that I think about it. But at the time, I didn't. So I have seen another person use an invocated shield technique. I didn't even realize it until I just thought about it. Her energy would go out into the world and connect to other people and cause them to alter the way they did things. So if she was walking down the street, say, and a drunk driver was going to pass her and kill her or something, God forbid, crash into her and kill her, that drunk driver would just decide to drive a different way that day because that's not possible anymore because she said so. Like, that is what her shield was. It was so strong. And it influenced everyone around her at all times. It's really incredible. That is the power of invocated shield. If it's really well done. But you're going to want to use a filtered shield also, which is something I learned the hard way. Because the invocated shield, while it will help manipulate other people to stay away from you if they mean you harm, even inadvertently, it will not do a very good job. It'll be very hard for you to know when something is affecting you, if it's you or if it's someone else. So when you're using the invocated shield, usually you would also use a filtered shield, so that even if something negative is going on inside of you, it doesn't matter if it belongs to you or someone else because it's not really affecting you. It's not really making you less effective at life. So that ties back into the example that I just said with the mean comment on the YouTube channel. So that's why the filtered shield catches that, and that doesn't bother me. And I'm completely aware of the fact that maybe I do sound like a clown and I just don't care. And I look terrible and I'm fatter than I've ever been and I just don't care. It doesn't, whatever anybody says about that, about my appearance, about, it's not making any difference to me. It's not affecting me. That's the filtered shield. Because otherwise, when I'm exhausted and the filtered shield drops, that's when the first person to say anything mean to me, even if it's not related to my weight, my brain is immediately like, oh, I'm so fat. No one will ever love me, even though I'm literally married. That's still what'll pop through my head. Because if I'm not actively shielding, then the invocated shield will just take whatever anybody else says and turn it into my own energy. So it will afflict me in whatever way I deem most harmful to myself. Okay, so that is the downside. So when you're using an invocated shield, you also use a filtered one. Always learn that the hard way. Any questions?
Yeah, someone asked, what if you live with constant negative energy from people around you? What's the shield?
I would hard shield my space and tie it to a crystal Okay, and so lock it in like a ward. So that's like you cast a hard shield, and we're going to talk about psionics. Once I'm done here in like 5 minutes, Ogun's going to get up and talk about psionics and what it is and how to do it and techniques related to it, and then he's prepared a guided meditation to help everybody get into it. What's it doing now? Look, it made it brighter. Look, the camera's working better now. Why didn't it do that earlier?
Your computer was unplugged. I just plugged it in.
Weird. Okay. Well, I can like read the whiteboard now in the thing. That's so weird. Anyway. Okay, YouTube. So what was I talking about before that? I was answering a question.
Tying the energy to a
Tying the
crystal.
energy, right. So I would tie the energy. So you cast the shield. Ogun will talk about those techniques in a minute. And then you tie it off, basically. You like leave that part of you that's thinking about the safety in your home, leave it in the back of your head and just dismiss it. Think about something else, but don't let it go. Like keep it there. And you can use a crystal to focus that energy, to remind yourself of that energy in the same way that you might use a sigil, right? So sigils are things that you put in your subconscious mind and forget about, right? So it's the exact same concept, but then you would use like a crystal or some kind of like energy keeping substance so that you could put your energy into it and then forget about it, basically, because your mind is doing it for you. It's like you don't think about having your heartbeat, you don't think about breathing, right? But your brain is still thinking about those things. You have to convert your shields into a subconscious process like those, like the rest of them. So then you would tie it off to a crystal, leave the crystal somewhere in your house. Every full moon, say, you recharge it, and then you leave it. You say every full moon you leave it out in the moon overnight so it can be cleansed, with moonlight, and then you'll do a ritual the next day to charge it up, and then you'll put it back where you took it off. That would be how you would. And then your space is totally clear of that energy, right? So all the time that energy is negative, you have a haven. You don't need to have your own energy. You don't need to have your own shield up. You could be as exhausted as it is. You go into your own shield energy and you're just like, ah. So when I had roommates and I lived in college, I used to do this. I used to shield our apartment. I shielded my bedroom, and then I shielded my half of the bedroom, and I had a different crystal for each shield. And that way, when I was in my bed, like sleeping, my roommates could be in the other room, like, woo, party, and it'd be like 3 a.m, and I just wouldn't even notice them. I would just sleep right through it because they're on the outside of like 3 levels of shields by then, So if someone's constantly negative, get their energy away from you, keep it away from you. Don't let it constantly drain your everyday shield. Find your sanctuary even within a negative space, if that makes any sense. When I was a kid, I had a closet that was not very big, but I needed my own space, and my parents didn't believe in locks and they didn't believe in knocking. So I would go in my closet and I put a bookshelf and a lamp in there, and one of those little gaming chairs that you usually like that rock, you know what I'm talking about? And I would just sit in my closet, and my mom would come in the room and be like, "Where's Tori?" And Tori's my my legal name, my childhood nickname. And my mom would be like, "Where's Tori?" And I would be like, I don't know, she must have gone out. And they wouldn't have any idea that I was sitting in my closet reading or whatever. So that was my sanctuary, and nobody knew about that. That was my little. Eventually, I showed it to my mom, and she was like, "Oh my God, I was wondering where your books went." And I just had like a whole bookshelf in my little closet. So find your sanctuary, define your sanctuary, protect your sanctuary. That's how you survive having toxic people in your life. In my case, they were parents. So, other questions?
Yeah, someone just asked what crystals are best for this.
Good question. I'd say that anything purple or white is especially good. You can use colored crystals as they align with the chakras. So purple and white work well because they align with the higher chakras. But say that your shield is specific to a purpose. Like this shield will make me feel rooted, and I will feel grounded. And when I take my LSD, I won't trip out to the moon because I'm inside a shield. Okay, if that's what you're using it for instance, then maybe you would use a red or a black crystal in that case because it aligns with the purpose of the shield. The type of crystal is not particularly important because all crystals will store and release energy. But if you get the crystal to associate with the energy of the shield you're trying to create, then it'll be, in sync. It'll be, what's the word for it? In harmony, or there's a better word. Synchronous. I can't think of it. I can't think of the word I want. But yeah, but it'll be better if you but if you're just like, that doesn't really answer my question, I'm a newbie, what kind of crystal should I get? Tell me and I'll buy it. I would say clear quartz. Clear quartz is the most versatile. Clear quartz is actually, no matter how much energy you send at it, and no matter what variety of energy you send at it, it'll always be cleansed. It'll always be cleansed, and it'll always cleanse all the other crystals in your kit. Like, I used to just keep my crystals with quartz, and then I would never cleanse them. And people would be like, "You're crazy! You never cleanse your crystals." But quartz will do the cleansing for you.
Self-cleansing.
Yeah, and it'll cleanse all the other crystals as well. So quartz is a good one. Any color quartz is good too. Like if you get like a purple colored quartz or something. And solasite is a good one. Solasite is very high resonance, high frequency. So that's a good crystal for powering shields as well, but I wouldn't wear that all the time. Solasite is like better for like a ward than something you would wear on your person. If you're carrying the crystal around with you, quartz, lepidolite, amethyst probably would help. Though that could also bring about visions, so maybe be careful with wearing it. But there's lots of good options of ones that you could carry around with you all the time. If you have like a crystal Bible. Okay, if you have like a crystal Bible, that's what it's called, literally. You could flip through, and anytime it says like protects you from electromagnetic smog. Okay, that's not a real thing, but what it's trying to say in poorly worded scientific sentences is that it will protect you from energy that comes from computers, that comes from interacting with. Basically, it comes from the high resonance planets. Okay, that comes from interacting with the internet, with the world, with people, with social media. Those things are all very exhausting. So another advice for people who are worried about being constantly exposed to negative energy: get off of social media because it's definitely not helping. I left Facebook. Part of it was the terms of service, but a larger part of it was the way it affected me. I just think that it didn't benefit me at all. It made me feel very exhausted and very drained, and I wasn't shielding well, and I was being affected by like asinine Facebook discussions that don't have any bearing on me or my future. And when it got to that point where I was talking about my conversations on Facebook in conversations on Facebook, and it was just like, oh my God, this is Facebookception. I need to get away from this. So I would recommend that as well. Any other questions?
Would selenite be good for shields?
Yes.
One thing I want to say though, real quick, back to the quartz thing. Almost all quartz are good for shields. If like some people like to put a crystal like underneath their pillow or something when they sleep to shield, like while they're sleeping from like bad dreams or whatever.
Moonstone is a good one.
Yeah, in my personal experience, I would not suggest titanium quartz for that, because that was the first crystal I got for that purpose. I put it under my pillow, and then I had insomnia for 4 nights. I couldn't sleep. The energy was just too much for me to sleep.
The man-made quartzes have very high resonance energies.
Yeah.
You don't want to use high resonance energies when you're trying to go into altered states of mind. Usually, you want softer energies, things that are that flow with you, that don't force you into another state of being. So like I use soulsight when I'm doing spirit work, because then I am trying to be in an altered state of being, one that's very high resonance, that's beyond physical existence, that's beyond time, right? So then I need that. But when I'm just like doing divination work, I would use amethyst, which is softer. People also, they cleanse with sage. They'll be like, I smudged myself with sage. I'm like, why would you do that? That's like killing all the positive energy. That's like all the energies are gone. That would, for the women in the room, that would be like putting something nasty that kills all the healthy bacteria, like taking antibiotics, in the hoo-ha, right? You want the healthy bacteria because that is what keeps the yeast in check. So it's a very delicate ecosystem. So when people say that they cleanse themselves with sage, I'm like, no, that's for the room, okay? Sage is for the space. You're going to cleanse yourself, use something softer. Use something like lavender, bay. Use something soft like sage or rosemary. In a soap could work, right? Like those, if it's like, we have a really nice sandalwood and rosemary soap in there. That's great for a cleanse. But see, myrrh is not really good for cleansing. Myrrh is like, I'm ready, deity, come into my body, right? Like that's like intense kind of energy. So you wouldn't want to do that. But like if you like wash yourself with lavender soap and you sleep with a moonstone under your pillow, you could probably do a lot to banish nightmares with that little bit alone. Yeah. So moonstone is soft, right? So moonstone is a white, soft energy crystal. That's why you use that when you're sleeping, as opposed to soulcite or selenite or something that has a lot higher energy. Because that just makes you wired, like Ogun said.
Yeah, I couldn't sleep for 4 days, and then I finally realized that it was the crystal underneath my pillow that was causing that.
Yep.
Right when I removed that, I slept like a baby.
Yeah. So that's because of the high energy of the crystal.
Yep.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, that's good. 1 hour. That was supposed to be my portion. We're right on schedule.
Okay.
All right, so Ogun's going to talk to us a bit about psionics.
My portion will not be an hour. I'll just make that disclaimer right now.
That's okay. We scheduled this to be 4 hours long, and then I realized, because
Wow.
it was 3 to 7 initially, and then I realized that there's no way in heck we could ever use that much time, and we had to start late anyway. So I think that we're actually on schedule for us.
Cool. I'm just gonna draw something.
I'm gonna come sit behind the laptop.
Then I'll explain what it is when I get to it.
It's so pixelated too, the camera. We gotta find a way to have better quality picture.
Okay.
Maybe buy a real camera.
Okay. Hello, guys. I am High Priest Ogun Sloth, for those who don't know. Hi, Kevin. So this portion of the, I love that you can see Frank in there too. Anyway, this portion of the seminar is going to be the practical portion, so to speak, where I'm going to lead you through a guided meditation. It uses a lot of visualization techniques for with shielding, obviously. And I am most fluent in psionics, as Tequila's mentioned before. It is evocation magic, and I find psionics is the easiest, I guess, of ways of shielding for people who have never shielded before, and even people who have a lot of experience in shielding. This still might be a new technique for you that's definitely worth trying out. When I was writing the meditation for this, I kind of came up suddenly with a new term that I liked called psi shielding, and I googled it and didn't see any other terms for it. So as far as I know, this is a brand new term, and as the name suggests, it's shielding, but with using techniques from psionics. And as a quiz after the meditation, I'm going to ask you guys what form of shielding you guys think that was. So hopefully you guys paid attention. All right, as Kevin's just shaking his head. Nah. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into a comfortable position and get into a relaxed position. I'm going to tilt the camera down a little bit so I can sit on the floor during this.
Okay.
Oh, also before, I'm just going to move this so that you can see what I wrote down on the board. If you have a piece of paper or something next to you, I would copy that symbol down, since you probably won't be able to see it during the actual meditation. This is a sigil that we're going to be using during the meditation, and we're going to use it as an anchor, kind of, to kind of hold the shield in place so that we can kind of just go into our subconscious mind and we can kind of forget about it, but the shield will still be active.
Sorry. I'm trying so I can read the comment.
Yeah. Okay. So. Okay, everyone can still see me. Good. Okay, look out, Frankie. Okay. So go ahead and get into a comfortable position, whether that's sitting, lying down, standing, whatever is comfortable for you. So during this, obviously there's many different types of techniques for shielding. For this technique, we're going to be taking energy from an external source and using that energy and harnessing that energy to cast our own shield, so we're not using our own energy. Because when you use your own energy when casting shield, afterwards it can leave you feeling very drained. It can leave you with headaches, nausea, fatigue. And for the purpose of this, since I'm doing this as if we were all just brand new beginners, I don't want to scare people off and having them feel exhausted and everything after shielding. So for the purpose of this, we're going to use an external source. You could use the earth, you could use the moon, the sun, stars, you could use a rushing river, anything that generates energy. So for this
caveat, people should be careful because if you use the energy of a particular space, is the sound still coming through okay now that we're sitting down? Let me just turn this down towards us.
Yeah, just keep an eye on the comments in case people are saying
I will, yes. Okay. If you're using the energy of a particular space and that space doesn't welcome that use of their energy, then you can get into trouble with the Fae.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
Okay,
I was already going to explain that. All right.
Then please elaborate, explain.
Yeah, so like she said, it's always good to, quote, ask permission from the energy before using it. And the easiest way to do this is kind of just sit quietly and stilly and just have the intention in your mind. Hold that intention in your mind while you're just sitting quietly and stilly. And then know with your intention of what you're going to be drawing this energy from. And if while you're sitting, you start getting like a negative feeling or some sort of like bad vibes or feeling that you shouldn't really continue or you should choose a different source, you should definitely listen to that feeling because that's just the energy telling you, hey, I don't want you working with me. Try again later or try some different source.
Like the magic 8-ball. Try again later.
Yeah, exactly. So that's always very important to always ask permission because if you get in trouble with Fae, it can be very, very difficult to get back on their good side.
Well, it's not actually. Just
if you don't know what you're doing,
for them.
If you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what's happening to you. It can be very confusing. And
if you don't know what's happening to you, it can be tough. Yeah. You'll stub toes, bad luck, broken shit.
Yeah, things that just are seemingly just bad luck are really just entities telling you, hey, you fucked us, so we're gonna fuck with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the purpose of this, we're gonna be drawing energy from the earth. So before we start, I'm going to go ahead and get us all in the right mind by using the singing bowl and just allowing us to attune to that and just get into the same frequencies with each other. Okay, so. Okay, so as you're sitting comfortably, if this is your first time ever shielding or you're still new to it and new to visualization in general, I suggest trying to do this with your eyes closed. If you've practiced before and like someone said in the comments, if you know that you do better with your eyes open as opposed to your eyes closed, by all means, keep your eyes open. But if, like I said, this is your first time, I'd suggest closing your eyes, getting relaxed, and yeah, okay. So
it was in the way.
Nice. That's better. All right. So go ahead and relax, close your eyes or leave them open. And we're just going to do a few seconds of breathing techniques. So just follow along with me. So take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a second and breathe slowly out through your mouth. Breathe slowly back in through your nose. And back out through your mouth. One more time. Breathe slowly and deeply in through your nose. Feel your chest and diaphragm fully expand with this deep breath in. And slowly let it back out through your mouth. Now, with your eyes still closed, I want you to visualize that you are in the middle of a meadow. The meadow is very lush, it's warm outside, and it's in the perfect shape of a circle. This meadow that you're in is surrounded by lush green, dense forest. Running through the center is a dreamy stream, and the sky-punching mountains soar up in the background. There's an abundance of wildflowers, red, yellow, and blue. They grow in this mild, and the grass is lush and springy. You can feel a soft, warm breeze gently blowing across your face. You can hear birds chirping in the distant tree line. Everything here is at peace and in harmony with each other. While sitting in this meadow, start to visualize roots extending out from the base of your spine. These roots dig deep into the earth and grabbing hold of this earth. Feel one with this earth. Feel its connection you have with it. For we all came from the earth, and one day we shall return to the earth. We are one. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Slowly back out through your mouth. Feel the energy of the earth. Visualize what color it is. For me, I visualize it as a green color, but wherever you want to associate it with is fine. There's no wrong answer. Take a deep breath in through your nose and back out through your mouth. Every deep breath you let out, any aches and pains in your body are released. Any stress from the day that might have built up is released with each breath you take out. Take another deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. The negativity dispelling. And the roots that are extending from the base of your spine continue to dig deeper and deeper into the earth, solidifying its grasp. Keep visualizing what color this energy of the earth is. Green, blue, white, whatever color you want it to be. Take a deep breath in and back out through your mouth. Now visualize these roots. Really see them in your mind's eye. Are they slender? Do they have bumps on them? What do the roots look like to you? Are they long and lanky? Or are they wide and girthy? Take another deep breath in and back out through your mouth. Now visualize the very tips of these roots that you've extended out of your spine. And imagine the tips slightly opening up, creating a sort of vacuum. These roots are surrounded by the energy of the earth. You perceive the energy as the color, whatever color you associate it with. These roots are surrounded by this pure color. Now, with the tips of your roots slightly opened, siphon this energy from the earth and into these roots. And with each deep breath you take in, visualize the energy that you're siphoning in getting closer and closer to your body. Take a deep breath in through your nose as the energy works its way up towards you, and breathe out through your mouth. Take another deep breath in through your nose, the energy moving towards you, and back out through your mouth. Continue to do this until the energy has reached your body, in through your nose, and back out through your mouth. One more time. Deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Visualize the roots full of the colored energy, and the roots are just glowing with this color, emitting the color so intensely and brightly. But it doesn't hurt your eyes to look at. It brings peace and calm and comfort to see. Take a deep breath in through your nose and back out through your mouth. Now, as the energy is reached your body, visualize everything around you start to glow with this color that you associate the earth with. It continues to grow more and more intensely until that's all you can see. You're surrounded by whatever color that you see. Nothing else is in your mind's eye except this color. You feel safe, you feel comfortable, you feel warm. Take a deep breath in through your nose and back out through your mouth. It's now still visualizing this energy all around you. Open up the palm of your hands and allow the energy to flow inside of you. Feel the energy flow into your hands and feel it work its way up through your wrist, through your forearms, working its way past your elbow, through your biceps and triceps and up into your shoulders. Wherever this energy passes, any aches and pains that you might have in your body, it's all gone. Any stress from the day, any tension, all of it's gone as this colored energy just washes over your arms. The energy feels alive, feels as if it's vibrating and pulsing inside of you. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. The energy continues to travel through the roots and into you, and it fills your chest and your torso. It just melts together. The energy that was stored in your arms, the energy that's now in your chest, it's all inside of your upper body. Allow this energy to fill you up as the roots continue to siphon the energy. Take a deep breath in and out. As you feel the energy inside of you, you might feel lighthearted or giddy almost, as if there's butterflies in your stomach. All of this is completely fine. Keeping the diaphragm the center focal point, allow the energy to radiate into all the other parts of your body, completely filling you up, all the way from the top of your head down all the way to the tips of your toes. Allow this energy inside of you to pulse and radiate into all the other parts of your body so that There is nothing left inside of you except this warm, inviting, calming, peaceful energy from the earth that the earth has allowed you to tap into. Allowing a continuous flow of energy from the roots into you. Feel the energy completely inside of you. Now, at this point, I want you to touch the palms of your hands together, very similar to as if you were praying, just like this. Don't press the hands together, just let them gently and lightly touch each other. Now, in this position, take a deep breath in and back out. Visualize the energy traveling through the arms, eventually reaching your palms. Once they do, visualize this energy coming out of the center of your palms, the energy pushing against itself. Don't force it. Allow the energy to just exit your palms, and you might feel your palms slowly start to separate as if there are two magnets pushing against each other. As the energy comes out, that's completely normal. It's a very new sensation for many people. Don't force it. Keep visualizing the energy flowing through the roots into you and then back out of your palms. Allow your palms to slowly be pushed apart. Take a deep breath in and out. Keep visualizing the energy pushing itself against the palms of your hands, slowly starting to form a sphere. Once you have some distance between your hands, try to gently pulse your hands together. And doing this, you might feel a resistance, as if, like I said before, two magnets wanting to push against each other. Be comfortable with this feeling. It's no way painful, no way harmful. It just brings comfort. Allow the energy to continue to flow, continue to form the sphere in your hands. Allow your hands to continue to be pushed apart. Allow it to continue to be pushed apart until it's the size of a soccer ball, or say. Once it's that size, just pulse your hands slightly. Feel the energy that you've contained in this sphere. You feel like two magnets pushing against each other. Still visualizing the sphere in front of you, lower your hands so that the palms of your hands are now facing towards the sky. Still visualizing this sphere of energy, this colored sphere inside of your mind's eye. Still just sitting stationary in front of you as the energy continues to flow out of your palms, feeding the sphere of energy. It is now too big for you to hold in the palm of your hands, hence why you want to put your palms in your laps facing upwards. Continue to feed the sphere of energy. Take a deep breath in and out. This sphere of energy continues to grow bigger and bigger until soon it's the size of the room that you're in, and suddenly it envelops you. The sphere of energy, it's so big that it has no choice to go anywhere but around you, and you pop into it almost like a bubble when it comes and washes over you. Inside this bubble of energy, you are completely safe. Nothing can be harmful. Nothing harmful or of ill intent can penetrate this bubble that you're inside, this pure sphere of energy that you've created from the energy of Earth. Only happiness, only positivity can come through. Anything of malicious intent simply cannot penetrate it. Now, this is where the sigil that I wrote on the board comes into play. Visualize the sigil in your mind's eye. Now, visualize this sigil as an anchor and have it anchored to the outside of this bubble that you've cast. And have a rope connecting you to this sigil anchor that you've created, so that no matter what, this sphere of energy will always be a part of you, lest you decide to cut that rope and cut the ties. Nothing can penetrate this, lest you decide that you want the energy in. Now slowly open your eyes back up. Bring your consciousness back to the front of your mind. Take a deep breath in. Back out. Open your eyes. And congratulations, you just cast your first shield. So that was shielding for using techniques of psionics. And that first,
Let's go back.
yeah, the first half of that I did with the creating the ball of energy in your hands, that was a technique called casting a psi ball. It's like the bread and butter of psionics. Every technique you use in psionics usually has the foundation of using a psi ball. But yeah, hopefully you guys like that. How did you guys like that in person? Does anybody have any guesses of what kind of shield? Oh, we erased it. What kind of shield it was? Kevin? Or anybody in the chat, if they have any guesses? Do you have any ganders, Tahila?
I'm not saying anything. I'm not learning here.
It's okay if you're wrong. Just
Some people have guessed filtered, some guessed full shield. I think
We're
it needs to
innovating,
say
right?
hard shield.
hard shield. So hard, filtered. What do you think, Kevin? Just say a name. Invocated. Well, you're wrong.
Maybe. That's the kind of one.
Yeah. Definitely wasn't an invocated
Yeah.
shield. I would not suggest
As the
beginners.
first
Yeah.
DM.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, definitely not.
It was a kind of a combination. Trick question.
Oh.
It was a combination of a hard shield and a porous shield. Because porous, remember, is a shield that you allow some things in and some things out, whereas opposed to a filtered shield is nothing goes in, nothing comes out. No, filtered shield is when you let everything in. Yeah.
Hard shield is nothing in, nothing.
Yeah. And so because this is kind of it's a combination of both, because the technique of using the bubble and whatnot to visualize the bubble of casting a shield is very similar to the technique you'd use in hard shield. Tila even said terminology that people visualize bubbles when they're casting hard shields, but the programming behind the shield, where you only let positivity in and you don't let negativity in at all, that is characteristic of the porous shield. So it's the technique of casting a hard shield, but the programming of a porous shield, which is why I call it psi shielding, because it's like 2 in 1. So
Yeah, and you know that it has to do with bringing because you're pulling energy from a source that's not you, so you
Mhm.
know it's not a pure hard shield
right,
because you're letting something in, you know, into the shield itself. Like when you cast a hard shield, and then you let something in, you cut a doorway for it, right? That's the only way it can get in.
Yep.
But this technique, we were building the shield out of an external energy source, which means that we were binding that energy source to us to begin with.
Yep.
Which you can't do if nothing can go out because something has to be directing that energy.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and with that sigil that I wrote down, that's with that anchoring the shield to you. As long as you keep this sigil in your conscious mind or even your subconscious mind, as long as that's in there somewhere, this shield is always going to be active unless you consciously no longer want the shield to be with you. Then it's as simple as visualizing that anchor and that rope that's tying you to the shield, and just visualizing you cutting that rope and cutting all ties to the shield. It's as simple as that. And once you do that, the shield's gone. There's no more shield.
Now, the shield is pulling from the earth, so
Correct.
it's not going to run out of energy.
Exactly.
Right, which is the benefit of powering shields using psionics.
Exactly. And it doesn't take any conscious thought to power the shield because, as you said, it's just constantly drawing from the earth. So we don't consciously
Right.
allow or draw energy from the earth. It just happens.
Well,
Or
we did
I mean,
consciously do it.
yeah, you don't consciously emit energy from the earth. The earth just is always emitting
It's
energy.
always emitting energy.
Right. And so because it's always emitting energy, we can harness that energy into our shield to constantly keep it powered.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well said.
Is there any questions?
Okay, so yeah, questions, because I think that's it, right? So we talked about shielding, what it is, the different kinds of shields. We talked about psionics, how to draw energy from external sources, how to manipulate energy in a physical space. So at this point, everyone who has attended should be capable of casting a shield.
Yep. And if you're still confused, you can always just go back and just rewatch this video and rewatch.
Or email us.
Yeah, email us questions too.
Comment, email us, covenantopenmind@gmail.com.
We also have our own personal emails too.
As someone commented on here, no, we're not very good at the whole audio visual thing. Okay, I'm a physicist. Oganslav is, what are you, a healer? We don't do audio visual. So he's actually good at video editing though. But we don't have like real equipment. So it's not fancy, but here's content for you.
Yeah, all the videos you've seen have been shot through our camera on the computer or phone cameras.
Yeah.
Nothing too fancy.
Maybe one day we'll have like a real budget and we'll buy real equipment. We do have a question. Rob says, are psi bubbles related to Reiki?
No, I wouldn't say so. Reiki is the universal life force that surrounds us at all times. And Reiki is a much more intuitive practice as opposed to the psionics. It's very visual in terms of visualization in your mind's eye.
What's the biggest difference between Reiki and psionics?
Psionics, you can use energy from any source really to power whatever you're using psionics for. Whereas with Reiki, it's a very specific kind of energy, which is the life force that's surrounding us at all times. The energy that's life is always what.
And you bring that energy in, right? So with Reiki, you're invoking energy.
Right, you're a like conduit, so to speak, with Reiki, where you have the energy travel into you and then back out to you into the participant or whoever's receiving the Reiki. Whereas with psionics, you don't always have to bring the energy inside of you. You can just bring the energy around you.
In fact, you shouldn't bring energy inside.
Right, unless you're very skilled.
Unless
you're in circle.
Unless you're sure what energy it is, right? If you're using the energy to form a shield, okay, then obviously that's not the time to be invoking energy.
Right.
So the difference between psionics and Reiki is that psionics is evocation, and Reiki is invocation.
Yep. And there's really no consequences or anything negative that can really happen in terms of Reiki. There's nothing bad that can ever happen to you with Reiki because you're just strictly dealing with one specific type of energy, and this energy is healing, it's life.
Yeah.
So no matter what, when you're bringing the energy into you, it's also going to heal you in the process. So really no chance of anything bad happening when you're doing Reiki.
But if you're good with psionics, you're probably going to be good with Reiki and vice versa because it's similar. It's just different.
Yeah, similar techniques but different techniques. Yeah, that's the easiest way to explain
similar
it.
but fundamentally different.
Exactly.
Any other questions? Give everyone a minute. Yeah, 2 hours is how long I thought it would take, but then I wasn't sure because if there's a lot of people here, I thought we might do more practical stuff, so it might take longer.
Yeah.
So, good. This was good. We'll need to find a better solution for people being able to see the whiteboard and stuff.
Yeah.
They want a clearer picture of the symbol. Do you think you can move the...
All right. There it is.
Can you go like from straight on? Not from the side?
I was trying to not move the stuff. Okay.
And then hold it right there for a minute. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And then I can put it back. Yeah, see, what we need is to have it positioned so that that's the view they have the entire time.
But then they might not see us.
No, I think that we could get it so that you can see us too, but we don't even have the right space. Oh, so someone asked about bubble casting. Okay, so bubble casting is similar to the technique we just did, but instead of the energy coming from the earth, it comes from yourself. It comes from one of your chakral centers. I've been told off for using the phrase bubble casting because as far as I know, it was invented by the Aquarian Age Wiccan coven or lineage, and they yelled at me for using that terminology. But I swear I've heard it other places, but I can't find a reference to it. So I'm now calling it chakra casting, just in case. So it's the same idea, which is that you take the energy from a certain chakral center, and then you just kind of push it out, right? So that it extends outside your body, and it'll feel very similar to what you just felt in that guided meditation. And the only difference is that the energy is something that you're generating yourself, not taking from another source. So it can be a little bit easier to work with because it's your own energy and there's less of a risk of accidentally upsetting a fairy, but it can exhaust you faster. So most of the time that people use chakra casting, it's for like a quick spell that they need all of a sudden to just get out there really quick. And so they'll chakra cast it out and let it go and not worry about casting a shield first to contain the energy and then sending it out. They'll just be like, boop. Or they'll use chakra casting to cast the shield in the first place. And it's always a hard shield, usually, that you use for a short period of time. And then you let it fall, So I hope that answers your question about that. So it is different, but it's similar. If you can do what we just did, then you should be able to chakra cast, assuming that your chakras are aligned and we're not really experts at this. I hope that the sound was good at least, because that's what the important part.
Yeah, that's the important thing. So people can hear us.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, last chance for questions.
Last chance. We'll wait a couple minutes. Otherwise, you'll have to email us.
Or message us on Discord if you're on Discord.
Or whatever. Yeah. It's the future. I thought the person said funky illustrations. That's their username. I was like, what? There's no illustration. What?
Illustration.
Okay, well, if that's it, guys, then thanks for joining us. We hope this helped. And from everyone here at the Covenant of the Open Mind, blessed be.
Blessed be.